Welcome to this webinar dedicated to advanced planning and scheduling in industrial equipment. Thank you very much for attending this session. During this session, we will highlight the benefits and capabilities of DELMIA or TEMS solution in industrial equipment, including examples of the actual values realized by customers using our advanced planning and scheduling solution. First, let's discuss what our IE customers tell us are some of their key challenges. What our industrial equipment customers say is that number one is agility. They have to be more demand-driven, more able to adjust. They also have to improve their throughput and optimize resources because that directly affects capacity and their ability to deliver to their customers. They're seeing shorter and shorter production runs, often order of one scheduling, where in an assembly environment, every assembly coming down the line is different from the one before it and the one after it, which demands, again, a great deal of flexibility. That also drives multi-mode manufacturing scheduling because while you've got the assembly line doing one thing, you also have fabrication areas and other areas of the plant that are very different. In fact, that ties into the next requirement, which is to synchronize the back shop with assembly. Because in the back shop, you're doing repetitive, higher volume, higher speed manufacturing operations, whereas assembly is a much slower process. And in assembly, you may have order of one production coming down the line, whereas in your fabrication areas, whether that be stamping, molding, welding, you're doing batches of material. So you've got different takt times, different run quantities, and different manufacturing methods that all have to be synchronized. In addition, synchronizing materials, providing subassembly and kitting synchronization, and optimizing setup times. So those are what our customers tell us are key to scheduling in the industrial equipment environment. But the reality is, planning and scheduling is still done with lots of tools from the past. A lot of outdated tools and concepts still exist to manage planning and scheduling. These can include Excel. We see a lot of Excel. Also whiteboards where you're using erasable markers or sticky notes, or magnetic boards where you're using magnetic strips to identify or to represent different jobs. All of those different methods are difficult to manage because their nature of being more manual, they're not collaborative, and whoever is doing this really needs a deep understanding to maintain these tools and use these tools, which represents risk to your environment, to your enterprise, because if something happens to your scheduler, you really don't have you may not have someone who can replace that knowledge. Luckily, today, DELMIA provides automated solutions to integrate planning and scheduling into your plants. Solutions that are more automated, much more dynamic, that are certified to integrate with your other solutions, that provide optimized engines to do your scheduling or assist in your scheduling. They enable collaboration across departments and across plants, and they're an easy and interactive way to work. So who is DELMIA? DELMIA is part of Dassault Systems' 3D Experience platform, a platform comprised of multiple solutions for information intelligence, for simulation and execution, for 3D modeling, and for collaboration, all in a real-time platform. The DELMIA Solution Suite is part of the VNR group, or Virtual and Reality group, of the Dassault solution, bringing together virtual and real world with solutions for digital continuity from simulation to process planning to execution for customers in 11 different industries. These industries are represented by, we have leaders in all of these industries, and they're really the heart of the innovation of our solution. The IE industry is one of 3 key industries that are a critical focus for Dassault. The other 2 being transportation, mobility, and aerospace and defense. Those 3 industries are critical and are the leading industries for Dassault Systems and DELMIA. Now let's focus more on DELMIA and DELMIA or TEMS. As mentioned earlier, the DELMIA Global Portfolio offers a comprehensive suite of solutions covering your global operations, starting from engineering and design, which is the model layer on this diagram, through optimization of your supply chain, which is the optimize layer here, and management of your manufacturing operations, the perform layer on this diagram, all in a collaborative environment and all based on an IIoT edge integration layer that provides integration to all of your equipment. For supply chain, we cover all the different levels from sales and operations planning to master scheduling and even detailed scheduling. And our focus today will be on the master planning and detailed scheduling capabilities that are provided by DELMIA or TEMS. Since the key to any solution is the value that it provides you as a client, let's start by talking about the value that DELMIA or TEMS can bring your enterprise. First, it's a world-class solution. The functionality really is unmatched across the industry. So that functionality, those capabilities enable you to streamline, harmonize, and standardize your planning and scheduling processes and leverage best practices across multiple facilities. It's also certified for integration with multiple ERP solutions, and it's a global solution. Global in terms of support, global in terms of implementation services, and so forth. So regardless of where your plants are, we're available. And it has a track record of proven ROI, maximizing customer service, helping to reduce inventories, maximizing throughput, and helping to reduce costs. So this is an overview of DELMIA or TEMS, and we'll step down into greater levels of detail, but the key here is complex manufacturers are driven to avoid idle time and wait time, but despite all of the lean manufacturing and other manufacturing excellence initiatives, wait time still represents a large percentage of the lead time in most industrial equipment facilities. With the DELMIA or TEMS solution, you can drastically reduce your cycle times, speed up production, and subsequently reduce your costs, all because of the solution capabilities that DELMIA or TEMS provides. To look just a little deeper, there are three key components in the solution. Number one being an optimization engine that will load your schedule for you, give you the details you need, and enable you to synchronize multiple different constraints, priorities, and other things to come up with a realistic plan. This planning also takes into account all of your constraints, whatever they are, whatever is unique to you. And it provides an agile decision support tool that's both interactive and easy to use. Going a step further, there are really three key processes covered by DELMIA or TEMS. First is plant scheduling. This is the short term. This is what are we going to do this shift, this day, this week. Very detailed, sequenced by what needs to be done when, and fully synchronized with all key requirements. The next level is master production scheduling or plant master planning, which is more of a midterm planning solution where now we're looking weeks and months, looking over time to see, do we have overall capacity to meet our needs? Can we meet customer requirements? Do we need to adjust work schedules, shifts? Do we need to add equipment? So looking at a more midterm picture of our planning and scheduling. There's also line balancing. There are really two aspects to line balancing, both supported within the overall DELMIA suite. One is the more long-term, I'm setting up a new line, I'm adding a new product line, I'm adding new production steps. How do I balance all those so that it's the most effective way to produce this part? That's part of the initial setup. The line balancing we're talking about here is the more immediate, how do I balance my lines, my production today? How do I take my typical planned way to produce this part and fit it into all of my constraints? Do I need to move some operations to different machines? Do I need to move some operators around to support what's needed? So this line balancing is talking about that short-term, immediate way to balance what we have to do today and this week with what our capabilities and available equipment and materials are. Now, all three of these things are done together. But even that isn't enough if you're in a global environment. You also need to support multiple plants. And that's the other area where DELMIA or TEMS excels. We provide corporate rollouts to multiple sites so that you can harmonize and standardize your planning across all of your facilities and take advantage of best practices in planning across all of your facilities. DELMIA or TEMS also provides powerful integration capabilities and is already integrated with over 150 ERP systems and certified with multiple systems. Now, typically the system we see most is SAP. Obviously, they are the leader in the ERP market, and we've been certified with SAP since 1997. And now, today, not only certified with traditional SAP apps, but also certified with SAP HANA. So regardless of your SAP environment or your ERP environment, we can support you and integrate with your environment. Now let's go into a little more detail on the capabilities of DELMIA or TEMS itself. The capabilities to optimize customer service, to facilitate demand-driven production, to accelerate product ramp-up, and to decrease operating costs and lead times. DELMIA or TEMS streamlines your planning and scheduling processes by modeling all your manufacturing constraints at finite capacity. So what can we do in reality with the capacity that we have? It helps you identify bottlenecks so that you can then address what those bottlenecks are. And it supports what-if production scenarios with an unlimited number of simulations so that you can reach your planning objectives, compare simulations, and find out what will work best for you. And all that's done in an interactive and collaborative tool. So it's not a standalone solution. It's not something one person has to have all the brain power to run it. It's something that enables and supports collaboration. DELMIA or TEMS is a graphical and intuitive solution. It provides an easy, interactive user experience. And it also enables you to use drag and drop and touch screens. So by using drag and drop functionality on a touch screen, it gives you clear visibility of your production within your capabilities to work in a collaborative group on the ideal solution. So it can be seen by the group, worked on by the group, facilitates your daily scheduling meetings that may be in a group scenario. So this can be done on a desktop by one person or on a large touch screen by a group to facilitate that true collaboration on a workable production plan. DELMIA or TEMS will optimize the sequence of production and also optimize setup times. That's important. Particularly in machine-based environments. You want to minimize setup. Setup can be affected by a lot of different things. If you're in a painting or injection molding environment, typically you want to go from light to dark. Otherwise, your setups are extended. The other thing that can happen in an injection molding environment is you may be able to change some inserts in a tool to provide different parts without changing the actual tool. So that by taking that into account, or TEMS will help you minimize your setups. Think about stamping, where the width of material or the thickness of material has an impact on your setup time. So being able to plan jobs together that use the same thickness or width of material is important. So all those different types of constraints, setup constraints, are taken into account. And you can easily change the calendar of your resources, introducing downtimes like breakdowns or preventive maintenance, or change the capacity of your resources. So if you decide to add a second shift just this week, you can reflect that in DELMIA or TEMS, and it will immediately adjust the schedule accordingly for you to show you what problems you have solved by making that change. Another key is you can manage multiple constraints with DELMIA or TEMS, more constraints than any other competitor we're aware of. Most scheduling tools are limited to 2 or 3 constraints, while TEMS can support many more to provide true schedule optimization. So whether your constraints are machines or molds or your labor resources, supplies, setup times can be one of those constraints. The color sequence we talked about can be one of those constraints. Tools can be one of those constraints. So again, you can set up multiple constraints prioritized so that you can have 3, 5, 7 different constraints in whatever priority is important to you that will be taken into account as a solution recommends a schedule for you. It also synchronizes bill of material levels and routings and takes into account your inventory and stock levels and policies. ORTEMS can actually manage different production policies for different products and product groups as well. So you can set different policies for assembled items versus fabricated items. Going back to that back shop synchronization that we talked about, that has to take into account the bill of materials, but it also has to take into account different production policies for assembly versus back shop. So DELMIA or TEMS can support those different production policies in different areas of your plants. Once you've got those requirements defined, we can match the requirements to generate the production runs that are, again, truly executable, truly achievable. And as you load capacity, DELMIA or TEMS will provide you alerts based on color when you're getting close to capacity limits or if you've exceeded your capacity limits. So DELMIA or TEMS provides a powerful tool in the automated load leveling and scheduling engine that it provides. This load leveling and scheduling engine performs against all the different parameters we've talked about, your constraints, your priorities, and that sort of thing, and it runs multiple different algorithms configured based on your enterprise planning and scheduling strategy, but built from our standard library of different criteria. And you can customize your strategy in order to meet your enterprise goals so that the schedule that is generated by the load leveling engine truly meets, as much as is possible, all of your constraints and priorities. Now, if desired, you can analyze your loads first at infinite capacity before running the optimization and leveling engine. Why do this? Well, this can enable you to evaluate longer-term capacity needs. Do you need new equipment? Do we need to adjust our work schedules more long-term, adding shifts or adding weekends? So you can take a first look at an infinite capacity, but still getting notified, alerted where you're over capacity so that you can start to look long-term and identify issues that maybe you need to address in other ways before doing the load leveling that'll give you the real executable schedule. Another key point of the solution is to synchronize its ability to synchronize multi-level bills of material with work orders and operations to be executed. If you see this diagram, this is talking about one series of work orders and products to be produced. This bar on the far right is your final assembly, but it's dependent on multiple different components, some from your back shop, some from suppliers, and so forth. All those lines and arrows that you see there represent relationships either in the routing or in the multi-level bill of materials, all the way from the finished good down to the lowest level raw component. This is critical because not only can ORTEMS manually or automatically load level, but it enables you to manually move jobs around. But when you're doing that, you don't want to put a job somewhere that makes production impossible. For instance, if you were to take that final assembly job that's on the far right and move it earlier in the schedule, everything that's related to that then would move earlier in the schedule. If you go past the current date, then it will let you know that. If it makes some of these tasks late, it will let you know that. If you take one of the tasks to the far left and move it to the right later in the schedule, everything that is dependent on that will move right as well. So that, again, all those dependencies, whether they're bill of material related or routing related, are reflected and enforced here, and it won't let you make a mistake that will create an impossible schedule. And it also then enables you to see the immediate impact of your decisions and to prevent or minimize delays and idle times. The role of DELMIA or TEMS is also to help optimize your inventories based not on infinite capacity planning like an MRP and an ERP system, but on finite capacity planning. So with availability checking, analyzing your stock coverage, and preventing missing parts, this helps you prevent missing parts and material shortages or overstocks. It gives you a more realistic plan for supplying material, something that's truly synchronized and coordinated with what you can actually do from a production side. So it enables you to control your stock coverage. It lets you see over time, as in this example, where your stock is high and then goes low and even negative. Now it is taking into account then not only your on hand and what you're producing, but also your purchase plan from your ERP system. So that's part of that ERP integration. And it also, DELMIA or TEMS also enables a more focused analysis of critical materials. So if you got certain materials that are very high value or that are used in multiple different areas, you can look at them in a consolidated way and really focus on those to make sure that you have coverage to communicate back to the ERP solution if purchasing plans need to be adjusted and so forth. And the goal of that, obviously, is to eliminate any missing parts from your schedule, so that you can not only can you produce things physically, but you have the materials available to produce what you need to produce. So DELMIA or TEMS will help speed up your production flows by assigning the right priorities to the shop floor. Dispatching can be modified in the solution or interfaced with your DELMIA Aprizo manufacturing operations management solution. So you can generate dispatch lists and schedules directly from ORTEMS, or if you're in an environment where you're also using DELMIA Aprizo for execution, it can feed that schedule directly to the execution system. DELMIA or TEMS also enables setup time optimization using multiple parameters. Again, back to what we talked about earlier with setup, whether it's materials, colors, tools, width, thickness, all of those things can be taken into account so that you can drastically reduce your setup times and still provide a schedule that meets your customer demands. We mentioned multiple scenarios, multiple simulations. Once you've done those simulations and even done your own manual rescheduling if you want, you can then compare all of those different scenarios and simulations based on key performance indicators that you define to make sure you're making the right decisions. So it facilitates better decision making and helps to ensure that the best schedule for your global production goals is produced. So, capabilities are important, and we've talked a lot about those capabilities, but the key, real key, is value. What value and benefits can you expect from DELMIA's advanced planning and scheduling solution? We've talked about some of these, helping you to meet key target dates, helping you to reduce inventories, helping you to increase your production rates, to increase agility and efficiency, and just digitizing that whole planning process. What about real results? So here are some typical or sample results from our customers, real results from real customers. Meeting target dates. We have customers that have taken their on-time in full percentage to 100% for extended periods of time. No missed shipments, no short shipments. How about inventories? Inventory reductions of 30% are pretty common among our customers. So the ability to reduce those inventories, WIP inventories by shortening your production time, but also your raw material inventories because you're now generated a better plan, and even finished goods inventories because you're not building ahead, not using just-in-case inventory, as some people call it, but you're building to what you truly need. Increasing throughput by 5% or more. Think about that. A 5% throughput increase is 5% free capacity. You can now add products without adding machines, people, or facilities. Agility and efficiency, that's typically reflected in lead time, and we commonly see a lead time reduction of 20%. And then the digitization of your process enables you to reduce your planning time. Typically often we see people cutting their planning time in half by automating and digitizing the planning process. DELMIA ORTEMS also has deep rollout expertise backed by years of experience. Our typical implementation model is to do a core model, a core configuration, where we have one or two pilot sites where we configure the core based on their needs and roll it out there. That's typically about a 9-month process. We're using a local team, the plant team and local IT team. We're using a core team from the customer and a core team from DELMIA's consulting group. Once we've gone through those rollouts, we've got a core model that we know works, then we can do more of a handout to you as a customer. Our goal is to make you independent. Our goal is to enable you to do your own rollouts once we've got the model configured. So then rollouts can be performed in waves, multiple plants at a time. As we talk about customer examples, you'll see plants that have done multiple plant rollouts in very, very short periods of time using our rollout expertise and our rollout model. So let's talk about some customer example. A leading climate control equipment manufacturer, multiple plants, global, all over the world. Their challenge was they had a manual, ineffective master scheduling process and really no visibility from assembly to fabrication. Back to that back shop synchronization issue. Caused them significant problems. Their strategy was to deploy 3 synchronized or integrated levels of planning and scheduling with a 10-week fast-track deployment. So we talked about an average of 9 months for that configure, for that initial core build. They did it much faster, and then they did their plant rollouts in 10 weeks. The result was a clear but surprising identification of bottlenecks. They didn't know where their bottlenecks were. ORTEMS was able to point them to identify for them what the bottlenecks were. That led to a 15% increase in capacity utilization at the bottleneck, which then drove to a 15% improvement in overall plant throughput. And again, let's go back to what does an improvement in throughput mean? 15% improvement in throughput means 15% more available capacity to add products without adding machines, people, or facilities. They also saw a 30% reduction in manufacturing lead time. That really affects the agility issue. And a 95% reduction in scheduled generation cycle time. In other words, how long it took them to generate and regenerate their schedule. And all of that together really led to a huge improvement in predictability. Whereas before they could maybe tell you what was going to happen in the next 2 days, to now they've got a pretty firm idea of what's going to happen for the next 16 weeks, which that then led to an improvement in forecasting. They now were able to do a true available, accurate available to promise for new products and new customers, and to know before it occurred when capacity increases were going to occur that they would have to address, or when they need to make changeovers, or when they need to adjust their schedule. So huge value for this customer. Second example is a customer called Velen, which they're an industrial valve manufacturing company. They make valves for dozens of different applications. Their challenge was they really had no control over customer emergencies. If a customer had a problem, they didn't have a good way to address it quickly. And they also didn't have a good way to manage delays because they didn't really have forecasting. All that led to really congested, crowded, overworked, overtaxed workshops. Their strategy was to get a complete view of the workload, to see everything, and to manage that by priorities, and to be able to manage their loads per work center, to level that out, and also to get good feedback information to adjust things in the future. Their results were excellent. Their priorities and targets were taken into account in the planning, which gave them a better plan. Their forecast fulfillment went up for all of their orders. Their short-term objectives they were able to adjust via checklists and that sort of thing, and they were better able to meet their short-term objectives for production, purchasing, and so forth. The collaboration enabled the team to all have the same data, so they were all working from the same playbook, which gave them better reporting as well as better results. and better interaction between the actual and planned schedules, and they were more able to stick to schedules. All of that then gave them improved visibility and improved exchanges with their customer. It increased their customer service dramatically. Let's do a third example, a global wire and cable manufacturer. They do wires and cables for all sorts of applications, from fiber optics to huge cables like you see in this image. Their innovation challenge was to meet customer requirements with ever shorter lead times. Again, this may be a simpler product than what you build, and yet they still have a wide variety of products they're looking at, a wide variety of products they're producing, from huge cables like you see here to fiber optic cables, which are very small, and managing all those different items in an ever shorter lead time. So that was their challenge. Their strategy was, again, they did an evaluation, they selected DELMIA or TEMS. They wanted a detailed scheduling solution that they could deploy in 21 sites worldwide, which is what they did with TEMS. The results were great. Their average lead times went from 14 weeks to 5 weeks. So that lead time reduction was huge. They saw a 20% improvement in throughput with constant equipment and staff resources. So again, 20% improvement in throughput, 20% more available capacity with the same machines, people, and facilities. Their ROI ended up being less than 8 months. Most companies we see target a 1-year ROI, so an 8-month return is a great figure. They saw a 23% stock reduction. All those things together helped them significantly improve their customer service and provided better visibility and planning reliability for production, supply chain, and maintenance. And maintenance is important too. We haven't talked a lot about that, but being able to take those maintenance schedules into account, being able to see your increase and decrease usage of machines so you do better maintenance planning, all of those things contribute to improved maintenance as well as the other benefits that we've discussed. Let's go outside industrial equipment for just a minute and talk about Novaris. Novaris is a plastics manufacturer. We're primarily in the automotive industry, so heavily machine-based. And their challenge was demand-driven manufacturing agility, having the agility to meet their customer demand, but still optimizing their cash and assets, machinery, and so forth. Their strategy was to, again, they evaluated multiple solutions, selected DELMIA or TEMS. The strategy was to roll out DELMIA or TEMS to do production planning and scheduling at 18 sites worldwide. So another multi-site rollout. Results, once again, excellent results. 30 to 40% inventory reduction across those sites. Their service level to their customers, which is critical in the automotive environment, went from 98.5%, which is good, to 100%. So they've met 100% of customer demand on time and full for an extended time period. They've increased their productivity, they've reduced their setup time, and they're able to better see and anticipate their changeover times. They've also reduced obsolescence. When you're in an environment where you have to build ahead, your obsolescence ends up going up because you get a product change, and now what you've built ahead is no longer viable to sell, to supply to your customer. So by reducing the inventories and getting better visibility, they've reduced their obsolescence. They've almost eliminated premium freight. So all those rush orders, all those things that they didn't get done in time, had to do last minute, and then ship at a premium rate in order to meet customer demand, that's nearly all gone away. Their supplier services improved to 90%, which often a question I get is, well, how does your internal planning affect your supplier service? But the fact that they have better visibility and more reliable information to send to their suppliers has enabled their suppliers to improve their service to them. So they're getting better supplier service because of their better internal planning and visibility. We talked a little bit earlier about digitization of the meeting, reducing time. Their maximum production and logistic meeting time has gone down to 30 minutes in what used to be an hour or more. Because of the manual method that they had to make adjustments. So a huge time savings there, which gives you greater efficiency elsewhere. And now their planners only spend about 30% of their day on the actual planning process that used to take most of their day. So they've got 70% on what they call anticipation, being able to look ahead and address issues before they occur, being able to look ahead and see how we can do things better and more efficiently. So significant benefits there as well. So those are the customer examples I wanted to cover. Let's wrap things up with some key takeaways. For long-term success in industrial equipment, advanced planning and scheduling is a must. It's a must because the world is changing. You've got greater complexity, shorter run times, more complex products. So the world is changing and you need to be able to address that. To address that, manufacturing agility is key. And that agility is really two key things: synchronizing operations with customer requirements. Everything is driven by what the customer wants. So you want to improve your service levels, support shorter runs, synchronize your assembly and backshop areas, go to a pull system as much as possible. So that synchronization of operations, and then optimizing your assets, reducing inventories, improving throughput, labor optimization, so that you're making the most of what you have. So to meet that changing world, synchronizing operations and optimizing cash and assets is critical. For demand-driven smart factories, a planning and scheduling solution, an advanced planning and scheduling solution, is critical. That wraps up our webinar. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for attending today. If you have questions or want more information, please feel free to contact Lila Lechopier at the email address listed, or look us up on the web, or follow us on Twitter, or look us up on YouTube. There are a lot of great videos out there, or follow us on LinkedIn. Once again, thank you for your time.